"Who is your father, little angel?" he asked the girl. "I never met him," she replied. Micah Okoro was a man who had everything. He was the youngest billionaire in the country, and today he was out to make a huge deal of his life. But his life was about to change today. Before we move forward, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. He was driving through a small village with his team, checking land for a new luxury resort. His black SUV rolled slowly past the market, dust rising in the air. Then he saw her, a little girl, no older than 6, standing beside the road, barefoot, in a faded school uniform. Her tiny hands held out a tray of roasted yams. Her face was tired, but she stood with pride. Something about her made him look twice. Then his eyes locked on her necklace. His heart dropped. It wasn't just any necklace. It was his. A silver chain with a carved lion pendant. A custom piece. One he gave away 7 years ago, to a woman he barely remembered. He stepped out of the car, slowly. People stared. Micah didn't care. He walked up to the girl. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She looked up with wide brown eyes. "Hope." His voice shook. "Where did you get that necklace?" She looked down, touching the pendant. "My mama gave it to me," she said, almost in a whisper. He knelt down. "Where's your father?" She blinked. "I've never met him." Micah froze. Then she added, "Mama is very sick, so I sell yams after school." Micah Okoro had closed many deals in his life, but this felt like something he couldn't afford to ignore. Micah felt something in his chest he couldn't explain. He looked at the little girl again, Hope, standing there with her tray of yams and tired eyes. He took out his wallet, bought every piece of yam she had, then said gently, "Come, I'll drop you home. It's not safe to walk alone." But she shook her head. "No, thank you. Mama said not to talk to strangers. I only sell and go." Her voice was soft, but firm. Micah chuckled nervously. "I'm not a stranger. I'm just someone who wants to help." But Hope had already packed up her tray. "Thank you, sir," she said with a quick bow. And just like that, she turned and walked into the busy market crowd. Micah stood there speechless. He turned to his driver. "Follow her, quietly. Don't let her see you. I want to know where she lives." The driver nodded and stepped out of the SUV. Micah waited. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10. Then the driver returned, shaking his head. "She's gone, sir." Micah frowned. "What do you mean, gone?" "She turned into an alley near the fabric stalls, and then she vanished. I searched everywhere. She's fast." Micah leaned back in his seat, eyes on the crowd, mind racing. This little girl wasn't just any child. She had disappeared like a shadow, leaving behind nothing but questions, and a necklace that belonged to him. Micah couldn't sleep that night. The image of the little girl in her worn school uniform, the necklace, the missing father. It all haunted him. So the next morning he returned. But this time his hands weren't empty. He brought a small bag. Inside were school books, shiny black shoes, a teddy bear, a lunchbox, and 2 reading storybooks. He found Hope at the same spot, balancing her tray of yams like always. When she saw him, her eyes narrowed. "You came back." "I told you." He smiled. "I'm not a bad man." He gently placed the bag in front of her. "What is this?" she asked, suspicious. "Open it," he said softly. She peeked inside and gasped. Books, shoes, a teddy bear. Everything shiny and new. Her guard dropped. "Are these really all for me?" Micah nodded. "Only if you accept them." She looked down, then up at him again. "If If you're not bad, I'll take you to see my mama, but no lies. If you lie, I won't talk to you again." He smiled. "Deal." They walked quietly through winding paths until they reached a small broken hut at the edge of the village. The walls were cracked. The roof was patched with rusted tin and old cloth. Hope knocked gently. "Mama, someone came." The wooden door creaked open. A tired woman stood there, skin pale from fever, eyes half shut, until they locked with Micah's. She froze. He stared back. Something flickered in her eyes. Something from another lifetime. The woman at the door didn't speak. Her hand trembled as she held onto the wooden frame. Her breath quickened. Fever or fear? Micah couldn't tell. He stepped forward slowly. "You must be her mother. I'm Micah." She cut him off with a single word. "Grace." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "My name is Grace," she said, her voice dry and quiet. "Not just her mother?" Micah nodded politely, still unsure why she was staring at him like a ghost had walked in. But for Grace, it was no ghost. It was him. Flashback. 7 years ago. A small city club. Music loud. Lights low. She, was young. Happy. Dancing alone with laughter in her chest. He stood by the bar, in a sharp black suit, watching her with quiet fire in his eyes. They talked. They drank. They danced until the music stopped. In the privacy of a small hotel room, he gave her a necklace, a silver chain with a lion pendant. "For the strongest girl I've ever met," he whispered. That night she gave him her body. By morning, he was gone. No note, no number, no name. Just silence. And a necklace. Back to present. Grace stared at him now, her voice shaking. "You don't remember? Do you?" Micah's brows furrowed. He scanned her face. "I'm sorry. Have we met before?" Grace held in a bitter laugh. "You really don't remember?" But she remembered everything. And now, so would he. Micah sat on a small wooden stool inside the tiny room. The air smelled of herbs, smoke, and sickness. Hope poured water into a cup and placed it beside her mother's mat. "Mama, drink. You're sweating again." Micah watched quietly. Then he turned to Grace. "How did your daughter get that necklace?" he asked softly but firmly. Grace looked up, her lips dry. She paused for a second, then said, "I found it on the street, outside the market." Micah leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "That's not true," he said. "That piece was custom-made. Only one exists. I gave it to someone. Years ago." Grace looked away. "Maybe I was lucky. Things get lost all the time." Her hands trembled slightly. Micah could see it. She was hiding something. But then she started coughing, a deep, painful sound that came from her chest. Hope rushed to her side, rubbing her back. "Mama, please rest." Micah stood and pulled out a thick envelope from his jacket. "There's money in here, for medicine, for food. Take it." Grace pushed it away. "I don't need your charity." He frowned. "It's not charity." She looked up, her voice sharp despite her weak body. "You don't get to walk back in and fix things with cash. Keep it." Micah didn't say another word. But inside he felt it, the weight of something unfinished. This woman was hiding a truth, and he wasn't going to leave until he found it. Micah came back the next day, and the next, and the day after that. Every afternoon after her school ended, Hope would find him waiting near the yam stand with a smile, a storybook, or a snack. At first she was shy. But soon they were laughing together like old friends. She showed him her notebooks. He helped her with homework. "Why is English so hard?" she groaned one day. "Even rich people struggle with it," he joked, making her laugh. Sometimes they just sat quietly. She would eat roasted maize and he would watch the village life pass by. Something he hadn't done in years. In those moments, Micah felt something strange in his chest. Not pride, not power. Peace. Real peace. The kind no mansion or deal had ever given him. But peace doesn't come without cost. One afternoon, his assistant pulled him aside, whispering sharply, "Sir, this is the third meeting you've missed." "I'm handling something important," Micah said calmly. "Sir, the board is worried. The media noticed you in the slums again. Investors are asking questions." Micah sighed, glancing back at Hope. She was sitting on a low step, drawing with a stick in the dirt, humming a song only children knew. The assistant leaned in. "Whatever this is, it's not just business anymore, is it?" Micah didn't answer. Because deep down he already knew. This little girl was pulling him away from his empire, and he was letting her. Micah sat on the balcony of his grand mansion, the city lights glowing behind him, a glass of wine in his hand, a silk robe on his back, a perfect life by every standard. Across from him sat Tiana, elegant, stunning, the kind of woman everyone expected him to marry. They were flipping through wedding catalogs. "This one's nice," Tiana said, showing him a photo of a beach ceremony. Simple but classy. Micah nodded slowly, but his eyes weren't on the pictures. His mind wasn't even in the room. It was back in the village, with a small girl drawing in the dirt, with a woman who coughed too much and hid pain behind her silence. Tiana placed her hand on his. "Micah, you're not here. Talk to me. What's going on?" He forced a small smile. "Just work. A lot's happening this week." She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Not convinced, but tired of asking. Later that night, Micah walked into his room and opened his drawer. Inside was a small, worn toy lion. Hope had given it to him that morning. "For when you're sad," she said. He held it in his palm now, staring at it like it was made of gold. Then he carefully placed it back and shut the drawer. He climbed into bed beside Tiana. But his heart, it was already somewhere else. Rain poured from the sky like it had a story to tell. Micah stepped out of his car, holding an umbrella. The dirt roads had turned to mud. The village looked quieter than usual. The kind of quiet that carries heavy secrets. He walked toward Grace's hut. He had brought food, medicine, and a small math book Hope had been struggling with. As he reached the front door, he heard her voice inside, soft but clear. "I don't think Micah remembers anything," Grace said, her tone laced with emotion. "But he keeps coming. He brings her gifts. He talks to her like she's already his." Micah stopped. He didn't knock. He just stood there, the rain hitting his umbrella hard, heart pounding harder. There was a pause on the other end of the phone. Then Grace's next words sliced through him. "It's strange, you know. He doesn't even know she's his daughter." Micah's breath caught. He whispered to himself, "Our daughter." The rain couldn't drown out the sound of that truth. He staggered back a step. Everything suddenly made sense. The necklace, the girl's face, the way he felt when she laughed, the weight in Grace's eyes. Micah had spent weeks falling in love with a little girl. And now he knew why. Because she was his blood, and he had walked away from her before she was even born. Micah couldn't wait any longer. His heart was racing. His shirt was soaked from the rain, but he didn't care. He pushed open the door to Grace's small hut, his chest tight, his eyes burning. Grace stood up from the floor, shocked. "Micah, why didn't you tell me?" he shouted, his voice cracking. "Why didn't you tell me she was mine?" Tears spilled down her cheeks as she tried to hold her ground. "Because I didn't want your pity," she snapped. "Because you left me once, without a word. I thought you'd vanish again. I thought... If I told you, you'd come for her and leave again." "I didn't know," Micah whispered. "I didn't know I had a daughter, but now I do. And I feel it. In my soul." He dropped to one knee, not caring that the floor was wet, or that hope was peeking from behind the curtain with wide, silent eyes. "I love her. I want to raise her. I want to be in her life every day." He looked up at Grace, voice shaking. "And I want you too. I don't want to miss one more day. Please, will you marry me?" Grace covered her mouth, overwhelmed, trembling. Just then, his phone buzzed. A voice note from Tiana lit up the screen. "Micah, please don't make any decisions until we talk. I have something important to tell you." He stared at the phone. One choice would break a heart. The other might break his own. Micah didn't say a word for a long moment. He looked at Grace, the woman who once gave him her heart. Then he turned slowly and saw her. Hope, standing quietly by the doorway, her small hands clutching the curtain, her eyes full of questions. She took a tiny step forward. "Are you really my dad?" Micah felt his heart break and come alive all at once. He knelt down and opened his arms. She ran to him without waiting for an answer. He held her close, tightly, like he'd waited his whole life to feel that moment. "Yes, my star," he whispered into her hair. "And I will never leave you again." Grace wiped silent tears from her cheeks. Micah stood slowly. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the ring he was holding since yesterday. The one meant for Tiana. He placed it gently on the wooden table. "I love you," he said softly to Grace. "But first, I must end something else." He turned, walked out the door into the evening light. The wind had stopped. The sky was quiet. But miles away, a sleek black car was racing down the road toward the village. Inside sat Tiana, her hand on her stomach, eyes red from crying. She whispered to herself, "He's mine. He just doesn't know about the baby yet." Tiana was pregnant, and Micah did not know yet. What will happen when he will know about it? He will be trapped between two choices. Share your thoughts in the comments section. What he should do, whether he should choose Hope and her mother Grace, or Tiana, who is going to be the mother of his son. Subscribe for part 2.